Welcome to the Slade Ham experiment, everybody. You have found your way to the proper door. Come on in to the Midnight Spaceship. Take your seats. Anyone will do. It's general admission. Make yourself comfortable. They all have a good view of the stage. So, before we take off tonight, I got to remind you, go watch the special if you haven't done it. Even if you have done it, just hit play and let it run in the background. Also, tell a friend, post it on Reddit, send it to someone. That's the best thing you can do. The likes and subscribes and the comments and all of that are great. But what I really want are people to watch the special. So if you live in a town and you want people to come with you to come see me perform in your town, then hit them to the special because it's pretty damn good. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, welcome, because you're a new face. This is gonna be. I got an announcement to kind of make this show or to touch base on. I want to talk a little bit about where I'm from. I want to talk about a disastrous first date, and then I want to talk about endings. So grab a drink or a coffee or a water or nothing at all. A cup full of air, or not even a cup, just your hands full of nothing, and you can just hold them out, or you can put them in your pockets. Whatever it is you want to do, make your place comfortable, sit back, and let me talk to you for a minute. My brother got an invitation to revisit a place close to our hometown. Every place has a place that you tell stories of because it's almost legend, it's mythological, and it's either beauty perhaps or its shortcomings. My place is Crystal Beach. And if you grew up in Southeast Texas, Crystal Beach holds probably a great many memories for you. Most of them good, most of them terrible. It seems odd to say that there could be two majorities, but it's Crystal Beach. There's a particular type of Southeast Texan. We're not all so I don't even know. Well-read and educated. None of us are, but some of us try. There's a kind of Southeast Texan who is just surrendered to his hillbilliness, and there is no. You ever seen a rat when they open the maze door after a certain amount of time, and the rat just won't cross the line? Like it just, I don't know. Maybe it believes there's open space is terrifying and it's going to get eaten by an eagle. Maybe it just believes the wall is still up. But evolution stops in any of these places that just decide to cease progress. The world is littered with them. In every religion, in every culture, in every color, in every creed. There are people who just went, nope, this is it. It's a lot of my people. And Crystal Beach is the vacay spot, if you will. Home of muddy water, brown sand, dunes made of dead Christmas trees. Hordes of mosquitoes swarm you at every stop. Cops arresting people left and right. And why not? Because there's a fist fight every 3 cars parked along the beach. And the other 2 cars are drunk. And one of those 2 cars is doing crystal meth. Crystal Beach is very specific. Now, I remember a significant amount of my childhood and then my teen years and then my 20s at Crystal Beach. From a little hometown of Beaumont. It wasn't hard to get to. You just quick jaunt to Winnie, about 15, 20 minutes. You'd dog leg it. You'd make this nice little back road drive, and you'd hit the coast. Whole trip would take you under an hour. You're in Crystal Beach. And as a kid, my grandfather would take us fishing out there. My mom would take us for beach days out there. And then those were all pleasant memories. I don't know how my mom managed to watch 4 boys at the beach with no other chaperone and none of us drowned. I guess we're strong swimmers. My grandpa used to just plug my little 4-year-old body in a life jacket and I would bob along him while he surf fished. Those memories are incredible. I couldn't even hold the pole. I'm just bloop, 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 and he's reeling in speckled trout after speckled trout, putting them on the string. That's where I learned to put them on the stringer next to me. I don't know how I was eaten by a shark as a child. And then you grow up and you go to Crystal Beach as a drunk teenager. I wouldn't even really drink it. I would just hang out. And the cars during spring break and during the summer, it's what was called the zoo. And the cars would just, miles of beach, people just in a line. And you would just drive in a line. You weren't going anywhere. There was nowhere to go. It was just a big line. And there would be drunk people on both sides. It was just like Mardi Gras, but without anybody, I don't know, without the Mardi or the Gras. So, and large gyrating women is not attractive in many instances. So you would just do this, and then people would yell at people and say something. Then one dude would jump out of the back of a truck, and then they'd get in a fight, and the cars would just drive around them, and fireworks would be going off, and people would just set up big stacks of speakers. I DJ'd a party out there. I don't know how we didn't get arrested. I had gone out to do fly. I'd gone out to DJ a show. I was working for this little DJ company, so I had all the equipment, big speakers, mixing board, all this stuff in the car. So I just went and set it up on the beach. We almost got arrested that night. Did I get arrested the next night? Or was that my friend? We're going to get into the arrest stories. This was the beach, and I've managed to dodge going back there. I don't go hang out on that part of the beach anymore. But when my brother brought it up, it just reminded me of how in me that is and how smart ass I've been my whole life. You think you've just been doing comedy since a certain point, but I remember I was for sure hadn't started comedy yet. And I was sitting in this bar. Was it Sharky's? Or what's the name of the other one? It's a dive. And this dude, people would just, I don't know why everybody wanted to fight. Obviously, they're angry. They grew up around the plants. Probably made them a little daft. So the dude was just sitting there. I don't remember what I was really looking at, but the dude goes, what are you looking at? What you looking at? Like that hillbilly-ish kind of confrontational, I hope you're looking at me. And I just remember sitting there, and I'm trying to remember exactly how I phrased it. What you looking at? And I go, well, I was trying to figure out how a person's eyes could grow so close together, and then I got the fetal alcohol syndrome and realized I didn't need to ask anymore, so I just looked. It was such a confusing sentence. The dude didn't even want to fight anymore. He just, and I just, let's do a shot, buddy. That's my hometown. So I'm sitting at the coffee shop up the street yesterday, and I had the beautiful privilege of witnessing a first date from the jump. I almost got to see the Tinder swipe on down. They sat down as I sat down. Let me rephrase. The girl was already there. The dude showed up. They're young, early 20s. And I am watching first date from introduction. And I see a lot of people. I have seen a lot of first dates. I've got an intrinsic library of human emotion and body language. I could just read it like a book. This girl was so full of shit, I couldn't see straight. And that by itself is hilarious often. But when it is coupled with a dude who is designed to be your foil, these were like movie villain and hero. This guy could not, I hope, I didn't say anything when it was all said and done, but I desperately wanted to. I hope this guy got away from her. Maybe there's two different kinds of liar in this world. And some people are doing it because they're nefarious. And some people are doing it because they're insecure. I think this girl was the latter, but I'm not sure. So for about 15 minutes, I had to listen to them talk about the weather where they grew up. One of them not having air conditioning. One of them not actually knowing what central air was. The ding-dong girl. Yeah, it was central air, but it was like a window unit. Anyway. So we do this for about 15 minutes, and I got my earbuds in, and I look like I'm working, but I am full-blown just listening to this. And I got them turned down. And she keeps saying, every time he says something, she'll say something like, "Oh, I just have my fair share of friends who've lived like that." And it didn't take me long to realize that every time she said fair share of friends, she just meant some dude she's banged. It's very clear. And I know this because she kept messing up. She had been messaging this guy. So here's how you know. She'd been messaging this guy for a long time. This was just the first physical meetup. And I know this because she is having tons of these relationships. Tons. This dude was there for her. She had him just one card in a deck of shuffled cards. He said something and she was like, "Oh yeah, is that why you sit outside McDonald's sometimes?" And he looked like completely incredulous. And she goes, "Oh, that wasn't you, was it? Oh no, I've just had so many people." And then she starts doing that stuttery, stammery. So many people. When I was a kid, I was just, and then she found her purchase. A friend of mine does that. He sits outside of a McDonald's and, he's a friend of my brother and I met. She just starts making up this. I'm like, this is the worst cover I've ever heard in my entire life. So the subject changes to kind of travel. Where have you been? What have you done? Here's the part. She starts going on about this trip to Greece that she just got back from. And this dude, this is why I like this dude. He double clicks on everything. Everything. If you say something to him and it sounds interesting, he wants to know more. And nothing is more uncomfortable to a bullshitty, lying ass, making it up on the spot con artist than someone who wants to keep asking you, "Well, why? Well, then what? Well, then what? Stop making me write a novel's worth of lies. I can only remember one sentence at a time." She said she went to Greece on this trip, and it was like I felt like he might have been doing it on purpose. He goes, "Yeah," he goes, did you see that, the Temple of Poseidon?" He said it so casually, like the way people would ask you if that was you went to Texas, did you go to the Alamo? That's how he said it. "You see the Temple of Poseidon?" And she goes, "Oh, yeah," so enthusiastically. And then it was just like he just stopped moving. He goes, "Well, tell me about it. I wrote my college paper on so-and-so in Greek studies, and the Temple of Poseidon was the most intriguing thing to me." And her face was just kind of melting. He's like, "So is the cliff that impressive?" And she's just, "Oh, yeah, no, I didn't even really, you don't even notice it's really built on a cliff. She starts doing that thing where she sounds like an astrology reading where she's just it's just so awe-inspiring, but also so just like grounded. You know what I mean? Like you're like you love it, but then you're like, you start thinking about it and you're like, maybe I don't, because it's so just like it used to be magnificent, but now it's like this, And this dude is just double clicking on all of it. Well, actually the cliff, is so, I don't know how you wouldn't notice it. Well, what about and she is just changing subjects madly. I thought this dude had I was like, I don't know what he does for a living, but he must have a big ass just board of her mind, and he just moves pieces around because she is doing worse and worse by the second. She finally changes the subject. She asks what he does for a living. He tells her that he programs microcontrollers. She goes, "What?" He goes, "I basically have a bunch of circuit boards in front of me and I type all day." I was like, my God, did I call it? I don't know where the date ended up, but I know this dude asked her every uncomfortable question, and she just wasn't watching her rhythm of stammering, staggering, finally finding some form of thing in the back of her brain to bullshit her way through. That was about the most amusing hour I think I've spent my entire life, and I didn't even write a single thing. All this, of course, just rambling to keep from having to get to the segment I don't really want to get to. Although I've already gotten to it in my head, so I might as well come out and say it. Many of you know, I also host a podcast called The Whiskey Brothers, and have since 2011, really since almost 2010. The first one came out, though, in February of 2011. I helped build a genre, an entire medium. Podcasting was barely a thing. Comedy podcasting definitely wasn't. Me, Rogan, Corolla. I don't know who else is still around from that era. But after 13 plus years, after almost 1,100 episodes, I'm bringing the podcast to a close. And I've told a few people, I've messaged some OG fans and some other friends who have been guests on the podcast, and just to let them know. And the biggest question is why? Why? My buddy Outlaw Dave, the old Texas radio legend. Why? Well, a number of reasons. There's nothing wrong. They're my friends. I love the show. It's all of that is positive. But I'm no longer obsessed. And I'm no longer gaining skills. And there's a lot of stuff I'm no longer getting that I used to get out of that show. And that by itself is a selfish reason to end something. So we won't put that on the real reason board, but it's a reality. The real reason, and I'll use a quote from one of my favorite comic books, Sandman, written by Neil Gaiman. And there's a quote in the 5th issue, punctuated by train horns in this hellscape of a neighborhood. All Bet's stories have happy endings. That's because she knows where to stop. She's realized the real problem with stories. If you keep them going long enough, they always end in death. So it's important to me as I think about what I'm working on, what I'm doing, how I allocate my time and energy, that I look at all the stuff I'm working on, where my energy is best spent, where my best product is coming from. What am I doing that's making me happiest, that's of the most benefit? And with the Whiskey Brothers, I think it's important that we find an elegant way to bring it to a close. Too many things I've seen have, as I've said in the show, faded out like a Leonard Skinner song. Just 30 minutes of a track slowly getting quieter. I feel like somewhere in some world there's still an engineer slowly fading out Freebird just a little bit more every millisecond. But you have to think about, at least this is what I think about. One, how I think of endings. And two, what they are. So, to the second question, what is an ending? It should be, an ending should satisfy the audience in a way that they don't feel cheated for their investment of time and effort. And you can stretch something out until it's just an overwhelmingly amount of output versus effort on the part of the audience, right? 1,000 episodes of something. You've gotten your share. But to just end it would be gruesome. To just stop would be terrible. So how do you bring that to a close in a way that everyone feels satisfied at the end? That's what I'm considering. That's what I'm thinking about. That's what I've got to consider when I think about how to end something that's been a significant decade and a half of my life. We've never missed an episode. I've never not hosted an episode, just one, but I still kind of was on it. So before this ends up in something I wished that I'd ended sooner, before this ship of Theseus has had every plank replaced by a new member, a new idea, a new direction, sometimes it's time to just end things, to let them be what they were, to remember them fondly. And like almost everything I do, I don't believe in finality. So it won't be over. It'll just be over until. So what now in all this consolidation, Slade? You're ending your longest running podcast. Are you keeping this one? Yeah. I still need the training ground. I still need my danger room. But I also am fascinated by other things. And I think it's important to, I've always said I don't like identities. I don't like labels. Even stand-up comic. As much as I embrace it, as fortunate as I feel to be able to confidently wear that name tag, I'm terrified of having to wear that name tag. Every story I tell having to have a punchline, everything having to end in laughter, everything on an upswing, no room for other elements. So one of the things I've done in these last few months, I've been diligently working on understanding the craft of world building, of fiction writing, of creative writing, some stuff I've just kind of ignored in my own training. And the reason I left the Whiskey Brothers behind is part of it is I'm not obsessed with it anymore. I don't wake up in the morning, oh my God, what are we going to do? How's this going to work out? What are we going to make? I love it, but I'm not obsessed. I've been obsessed with a couple of stories. Things in my mind, characters in my mind, worlds in my mind that I want to shuffle together and play with. So I've got to clear space for all that. I'm still writing the new memoir. I'm adding this fictional world to my writing regimen. I'm working on the new stand-up show first and foremost. Some summer dates. I'll be getting out on tour. My goal is to do enough, did I almost say cruise ships? Comedy dates. Wow, no cruise ships. Ixnay. My goal is to not do any cruise ships. My goal is to do stand-up stages for audiences. I don't know if any of this is going to work out. I may be on a cruise ship this fall. I have no idea. But you can help. If you rally the troops up, get them in order, get them in line, tell them I'm coming to your town, and then let's figure out a way to get me to your town. More stand-up from me, more writing from me. I am a more placid me, and I think that makes for better creative work. Thanks for listening. Thanks for letting me ramble. Thanks for letting me explain where I am in my life. Thanks for letting me be me. And we'll talk about tons more coming up. Thanks for watching the Slade Ham Experiment.